What's up, guys? Welcome to our Sony E3 2017 Post Show. And I'm here with Evan, of course. We just got done watching the entire stream. And we have some takeaways from this. Definitely, I don't know. I'm not super excited, I guess, about what we just saw overall. I'm not really sure what happened exactly here. It seemed like we went into this, I guess, thinking it was going to be a very long presentation with a lot of stuff happening, and it kind of came out to where that wasn't the case, right? I mean, I'm not really sure what happened here. What's your take here, Evan, on this?
I don't even know. I feel like they might have forgotten how E3 should really work, with people actually interacting on stage with the games and stuff. We just watched, I guess.
It didn't even have to be like a live presentation, right? This could have been a Sony Direct, I guess you'd say, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we just watched trailers. Like, that's all we just did. We just watched, because the problem is, you and I both know in gaming, when you want to show gameplay, you can actually just make it as like a movie, and then we're not really watching actual gameplay. We're watching stuff that's been pre-rendered and done. So like, that's kind of what this whole thing just felt like, was just we're watching a tightly enclosed, completely encapsulated, like, this is all you're getting for now, and that's it. Like, the most exciting moment for me was the Shadow of the Colossus remake, but I've already played that game heavily, so I'm not looking forward to buying it again as much as like the idea that people who never played it are going to now have access to it in a really good visual quality, and that's about it.
Right. I mean, I guess that's what that is, right? Do we know if that's a remake?
Those are all the original Colossi in it, unless they add more, but those are the original ones I remember, and the levels and the visual style of it's just so much better. The castle, the actual bridge over looks so much better because it's, new tech. But past that point, I don't know. Okay,
so we started the show. We opened with Monster Hunter. And we've been talking about leading up to this with Monster Hunter showing up on the PS4. Like I said, people, I guess, didn't want to believe it or thought it was crazy. I pretty much, after we saw that copyright go up for, it was Capcom filed Monster Hunter World like a week ago. And we saw that, and in my mind, I was like, okay, it's coming to the PS4. Is it also coming to PC, for example? It looks like, yes, it's going to be PS4, Xbox One first, and then it'll go to PC later. Early 2018 is when we'll see those released. And that's a big deal to get Monster Hunter, but it didn't look like your traditional Monster Hunter game when we were watching it. It looked more actiony. There was like this grappling hook you had that you could shoot around with. It definitely looked like it was more geared towards like Western audience, if you know what I'm talking about. Because I know you played a lot of Monster Hunter, didn't you, Evan?
A bit, across a couple systems.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, because the way Monster Hunter always plays, it always feels a little more like I guess almost a numbers game for needing to be in a certain position and attacking. I'm not thinking that the action side of it's going to be a negative side. It definitely needed a little bit more action to it. But did they even show like the possibility of multiplayer in it, or did they just show like the one guy interacting kind of with the world?
It looked like it was just one guy running around, right? I assume they'll have, it's supposed to be open world is the idea. And I assume that they have incorporated multiplayer because that's kind of the point of Monster Hunter.
That's the point of Monster Hunter, is the multiplayer. So if they just release this as like a single player only RPG where you fight monsters, I'm probably going to completely avoid it. Like,
yeah, I mean, if it's just single player, it makes no sense. I don't think that's the case, but it makes no sense. And then we moved on. Of course, we did see a ton. I mean, they just rifled off games, right? I mean, we saw Shadow of the Colossus, we saw Days Gone, which Days Gone looks good, but it almost looks like, it looks like Last of Us when I watch it. I don't know if that's just me. I have seen, obviously, we've been getting quite a few of these type of survival, almost like not horror, but like survival kind of. I don't know. I guess you could die at any time. You're very vulnerable. Your character's very vulnerable, it's supposed to be very gritty. But I feel like we've seen a lot of that with something like The Last of Us already. I don't know if Sony realizes that genre works on their systems. They're making another one that looks like Days Gone. But it had zombies, obviously. He was going into like a camp to save, I guess, a friend. And it looked, I don't know, it looked so similar to Last of Us that it was almost hard to tell the difference at times.
Yeah. Well, who's making Days Gone?
It's an in-house Sony developer, from what I could tell. I had it up on the screen and I closed it out when we finished. But it's an in-house Sony. I think it was like what was it, Ben's Way or something. It's in-house Sony though. That's all. It's a studio that I think Sony owns, and it's they're publishing it. So it looks like maybe they have the same kind of idea that Last of Us had.
Yeah, there is a good chance of that. A lot of the times when you're trying to create a new IP or something, going ahead, the way you do it is you go into the board meeting and you go, it's going to be like this and this. And most likely, since Last of Us was selling so well, they probably said Last of Us meets zombies. And then everyone in the room was like, ooh, money. And I don't know. Yeah, because like State of Decay, it's a zombie game, it's a survival game, but there's aspects to it that make it feel a little bit more alive, a little bit more like a card game almost, or like a tabletop game with randomly occurring events and the open world function. So it has its own life and its own feel to it, whereas this one feels like it's just going to be like a straightforward story. There's going to be a point A to a point B moment, and there's going to be zombies involved.
Sure. I'm looking at okay, so we had that. We had Detroit, which looked interesting. I don't know. When I first saw that, I was like, this looks almost like a more actiony Watch Dogs kind of. And people were making fun of it in the chat that it's going to be called Detroit, and it ended up being called Detroit. But I mean, that didn't look bad either. I just think I need to see a little more of it. I don't even know if we saw actual gameplay or if that was just a cinematic render that they did, where everything was super controlled. They didn't. That was the other weird thing about this conference. They didn't play any games on stage, right? They were barely. Yeah. We only saw one guy, right?
Yeah, there wasn't a moment where someone walked out with a controller and was like, "Check this out."
It was one guy.
It felt so like sterile. It was just weird.
So we get that, and then we get a ton of VR games, right? Like, I mean, a ton. I was talking about this before. Sony needs to push VR themselves. If no one else is going to do it, they need to go out and they need to get the games put together so that they can put out there, because that's kind of what they're trying to get across to consumers right now is their PlayStation VR, but they didn't advertise a price drop, which kind of caught me off guard. And there wasn't, all right, so the games looked good, but there wasn't one, to me anyway, that stood out to me, and I was like, I need to go buy this $500 piece of equipment, right? I need to go spend more money on this piece of equipment than my PlayStation 4 Pro cost me because I want this game. I just didn't see a game there that made sense to me. It's almost like they just wanted to get a number of VR games like Scattershot, right? And just try to see if one of them sticks to every other person or something. Yeah,
they just picked like platformer, RPG, and fantasy, and then they just made you look at it.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a weird conference that we just watched. It was barely 60 minutes. Barely. And Sony's always known to go long. I've seen so many times where Sony ends up at the 2-hour mark and they're still rolling along because they have so much stuff to show us. It just didn't feel like they had it this year. Maybe they're so confident right now. I don't know. And I've told people before, if there's no competition and one is so far ahead of the other, you get stuff like this that happens where they can show up to something like this and they just don't have to care. It's weird, isn't it? PlayStation has tried so hard over the past 4 years to get their install base for the PlayStation. And it's almost like now that they have it and they sell twice as many Xbox, like they sell for every 2 PlayStations they sell, 1 Xbox sells. So they're like a 2-to-1 ratio because it's like 30 million versus 60 million. And they know they've won this generation. It's almost like they're kind of on cruise control right now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a weird feeling, right?
Definitely feels like that. And did you notice a distinct lack of any like online games as well? Like, did you?
I mean, okay, so they're definitely sticking with their third parties because Destiny 2 is going to be yeah.
They showed that, but about from anything else, from all of it, I mean, it feels almost like they're focusing beyond that on like single player experiences.
Yeah,
it's really weird. I mean, God of War, it's going to be hella single player.
2018 though on that one.
And then everything's apparently 2018. So
what is happening? I was positive God of War would have made the cutoff date for 2017. That's 2018. Spider-Man somehow is 2018. I don't know how they missed this opportunity with the movie coming out and the hype that's there for the movie, because just the hype alone on that movie, like maybe they can't get out in July, but if they could get it out in like mid or late August when the movie is still kind of in theaters, how many more copies would sell because of that?
Yeah, that was always the thing. Spider-Man, the game, had to come out at least within a certain range of the movie for people to really care about it. So
Yeah, I like, how is it that Ubisoft had a longer conference than Sony? Like, how did this happen? And I'm confused right now. All right, so what games are coming out this year? Is it all third party? Because some of the VR games I think are coming out this year. They had Destiny 2. That's fine. That's a multiplat. I mean, it's almost like all the games coming out this year are multiplats for Sony's PS4. It's like they wanted to get their first party, like, or their exclusives out at the beginning of the year with Horizon Zero Dawn and Neo, for example. Like, where was Bloodborne 2? You know, like, where was Gran Turismo?
yeah, I don't even know.
I mean, we just saw Forza 7 yesterday. I was positive Gran Turismo was going to be here tonight.
They did something in one of the pre-show trailers where they were talking, I think, to some of the guys from Gran Turismo, but I don't think they actually announced anything.
Yeah, like, I don't know what happened there. Like, how do they not show up on stage and say, Gran Turismo, here's 15 minutes of Gran Turismo, like how Microsoft drives a Porsche onto the stage for Forza 7. Sony won't even mention Gran Turismo. Like, it's mind-blowing to me right now what's going on at Sony. Of course, they also announced their own event, the PlayStation Experience. So I guess they're just like, that we don't need to care as much about E3 because we have our entire own conference. But what I don't know. I don't know what happened. It's weird. This is the complete opposite direction that I thought Sony was going to go in. I don't even know what's out this year for Sony now. I was almost positive Spider-Man was this year. I thought God of War was going to be this year.
With everything they showed, it should have been, really. Like,
no price drop. Like, I was almost positive there'd be a price drop at the C3, at least on the PlayStation VR. And Monster Hunter is not till next year, but that's a multiplat anyway. We don't know when Shadow of the Colossus comes out. Someone asked what my grade would be for Sony. I don't like putting grades on conferences, but if I had to rank it, and this is going to sound crazy right now, I would put Microsoft's conference ahead of Sony's right now.
Yeah, definitely. And even though Microsoft did show off a bunch of games that are going multi-platform anyway, they were the first ones to really show off like more gameplay of it. They were the first ones to really interact with it and show us stuff about them. So like, even though Sony is getting them, it still feels like it's more hyped for Microsoft, because like, I'm actually super hyped up about what Anthem could be. And
sure, and Microsoft showcased that heavily. It seemed like Microsoft went there wanting to build a presentation, and Sony went there kind of like with an eye roll and just like, throw trailers up, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, and have a guy come out at the end and be like, "That was fun, right?" And have a really
how dead was that crowd, man?
I don't know. I mean, they were obviously having audio issues, so I don't know if they just shut audio off for the crowd, but they weren't moving, and they definitely showed us a lot of the crowd. I don't know why they kept cutting so that it was all the way back and just like, hey, everyone look at the crowd, not moving around while you watch a Destiny trailers.
But there was no, like, the only time they got excited, right, was did you get I can't remember if they got a reaction for Shadow of the Colossus. I know there was a reaction for
they did.
Okay.
Right at the beginning, because once you I noticed it. The first shot was of the tower with the walkway, and when I was looking at it, I was like, no way, I know that bridge. Where do I know it from? And then they show the next scene, and then they show the guy with the cape, and I was like, Shadow of the Colossus. The moment it hit my head, I started hearing people being like, yeah. Maybe because they thought it was going to be a continuation or a retelling, but then they started showing the Colossi, and they were all the ones I remembered. So it's just Shadow of the Colossus.
It's a remaster.
Visuals. Well, I don't know if it's going to be like a redo almost, because when the sand dragon was coming out of the ground, it felt more atmospheric. It felt like there was a lot more particle work going on there. So I think they might have even just redone a lot of the engine work.
And then they got a big reaction for God of War, which was expected. You should get a big reaction for God of War. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? God of War is like Sony's baby, pretty much.
Well, yeah, and they said it was going to be Viking, I think, this time instead of Greek and Roman. So
it looked that way, yeah. And then, of course, he's going to be like the old man Kratos, like like old man Logan, old man Kratos. So different story for him to kind of go through, which is cool. I like that. But like, where was Last of Us 2? Like, what happened to that?
It had zombies in it. Didn't you notice?
I mean, that's Days Gone, but what happened? What happened to Last of Us 2? Maybe if
I don't even know.
It's so here's the thing. Going into tomorrow, Nintendo is in a position that they probably didn't expect to be in, right? They know Microsoft is showing up, like they knew Microsoft showing up with a new system that's going to blow the doors off of like the power hungry users, like wallets, right? They're going to open them up and give Microsoft money for that. They had to have thought that Sony was going to come in with like a ton of games and like a 2-hour presentation. They show up with a barely 1-hour presentation. They show off a bunch of multiplats and then a bunch of games that come out next year. And Nintendo has stated that they're showing off pretty much all games that are coming out this year. They're in an interesting position. I'm interested to see what their conference is going to be tomorrow, their direct, because now it's up to Nintendo and they can win with a half-hour presentation, which sounds crazy, but with good announcements, and they've already showcased Skyrim at Bethesda, and they've showcased a very creative-looking Rabbids game at Ubisoft. Why not
Mario XCOM? But no, if they land and just show us 3 games that everyone's been hyping up, it's over. That's
3 good games. You show up with Metroid, Smash Bros, and either Pikmin or Animal Crossing. I think they win E3
at that point.
It's just I'm honestly surprised. I don't know what happened with Sony. Maybe they don't care about this E3 because they know a lot of their games wasn't going to make it till 2018, and they're fine with taking kind of the multi-plat kind of, I guess, path for this Christmas time because they know Microsoft's not going to catch them. They know Nintendo's not going to catch them right now. So save your stuff for when you need it, I guess, for next year. Let it kind of incubate a little further. Man, I don't know. But so tomorrow we have Nintendo. That is at noon, and then we have Treehouse after that. So we'll be on for that starting at 11:30 in the morning. We'll probably be starting up our stream and get ready. First hour Treehouse will be announcements too. Okay, yeah. So people are saying the first hour of Treehouse will also have announcements, so we'll be a part of that as well. Yeah, we'll let the Treehouse go a little bit too. Yeah, we'll be on. I think we'll be on stream till almost 3 or 4 o'clock. So we'll be on stream for a bit,
unless they just keep belting out things. Like, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. Now I'm interested. Now it's like eyes to Nintendo because Sony, while they showed up with games, but they for what we're used to from Sony, that was not a good presentation. That was not. We're used to so much more from Sony. So I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow because now Nintendo finds himself in a place where they can theoretically win E3 with the right announcements without too much resistance from Microsoft or Sony. So, and now at this point, man, if you look at what we're expecting this Christmas from Sony and Microsoft, and it's not like big games, like they're all looking at the third party, like kind of third parties bring games in, whereas Nintendo will have things like Mario Odyssey, and things like Rabbids, of course, will be there. That is kind of third party, but still has their first party stuff in there. And then who knows what they announce, tomorrow. So I don't know. I didn't like it overall. I thought they announced the games. I was really frustrated that Spider-Man's pushed to next year. That really killed it for me. I was almost positive while I was watching that God of War was this year. That's next year. And maybe PlayStation Experience, they show us a little more of things like Gran Turismo, and they show us more of The Last of Us 2.
Yeah, they actually give us the games that you're going to be able to get in the holidays.
Yeah, so I guess we'll look at PlayStation Experience next. But I said Monster Hunter would show up. Yes, Monster Hunter showing up. That's fine, but we'll see. So. Death Stranding's not even here. Death Stranding's going to be a 2019 game. That's not for a long time.
Yeah.
God of War is next year. Like that they're not going to show up with the best, I guess, lineup for Christmas time is what we're saying. And that's if these games actually make their 2018 release. Who knows if they get pushed back again or something. I mean, I was positive Spider-Man would be ready to go, and it's not. So who's to say? And it just said 2018. It didn't say early 2018. It just said 2018, so it could be fall 2018. I don't know. They just didn't. It looked like they phoned this one in. So That's all I'm going to say there. Like, no guests, no live presentations, no nothing. They could have just done a Sony Direct.
They didn't even have to rent the hall. They could have just played it on a screen.
Yeah, they could have done what Nintendo does and just stream it to us. Spider-Man. No, I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man looked great. It did. People are saying chat. Spider-Man looked good. But I wanted it this holiday.
I like the interaction. I like the destructive worlds. The actual powerful looking fights seem kind of cool.
Yeah, let's talk about the stuff that would. Okay, we just talked about what I didn't like about it. Let's talk about what we did like about this conference. I liked. Okay, obviously the games, because that's all they showed were games. They didn't talk about the hardware at all with price drops or anything. But I liked Spider-Man. Spider-Man looks awesome. The visuals looked great. I was worried that it was going to be set pieces, but then he starts chasing the helicopter down through like the city. So I'm hoping it kind of turns into an open world game, much like the second one was, because Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite Spider-Man game. And it looked like there was like impact to everything he was doing. They gave you QuickTime events, and I know a lot of people won't like the QuickTime events, but you know what? They don't seem to interfere with much. It seemed to be part of the cinematic. And then we did get that combat, Evan, that even you pointed out like instantly. It was Arkham, right?
Yeah, well, it's Arkham in its smoothness. It definitely has its own special feel since it is Spider-Man. I mean, at one point he did web a guy, then slide under him to get behind so that people shooting wouldn't like hit him. So that was pretty cool. Definitely the QuickTime events, though, leading up to that point of him just sitting there and waiting to hit a button to web a guy, like that was kind of dumb. But
yeah. I mean, people were saying it looked scripted, and yes, it was. Someone wasn't out on stage playing it. That's what I'm talking about. If someone was out on stage playing it, then you can be like, okay, maybe it wasn't scripted, because they can still kind of fake it with the controller, you know?
Yeah, because it had that. They can definitely fake it, but they had that moment where I guess he was trying to get the thing hanging off the bottom of the helicopter, and he had the button for quick time grab, and he tried it, and then it flew through the sign, and that's when he was like, "Oh, that was close. That felt so scripted. That one moment felt so scripted."
Oh man. People are saying it's Monster Hunter, by the way, is confirmed as a spin-off. It's not part of the mainline series. But it will show up on PC, so you could actually try it out, Evan.
That'll be good. Maybe I'll see what else is going on, and when it comes out, what else is around it. Because if I'm honestly picking between Anthem and Monster Hunter, I'm probably just gonna go Anthem.
There you go, easy enough. I don't know when Anthem's even coming out.
Yeah,
not for a while. Yeah, nothing. Crash. They didn't show it because Crash is coming out at the end of the month anyway. We already know about it. There was another good one somebody just pointed out. What was it? Someone just pointed another one. Oh, Shenmue 3. I already confirmed on Newswave Shenmue 3 was not going to be here. They already told us that. Next year, probably when they're ready, they will show it. But it also got pushed to like late 2018 also. So we won't see Shenmue for a while. But I think that's also going to PC, I think, maybe. It's I don't know. It just wasn't my presentation. The Vita was never mentioned. I didn't think it was ever going to get mentioned. They're done with the Vita. They're just going to let Japanese third parties take over that section at this point.
Japanese third parties do really good work with those kinds of dead systems. Well, there's new Dreamcast games, so like,
they do. Yeah. But I would honestly, some people may have liked the presentation, but when you actually start looking at the games and when they're coming out, I don't know. Well, I don't know. The big surprises were right in the beginning, right? It was Monster Hunter and Shadow of the Colossus. Those are the two big surprises.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, but all those rumors about a handheld. No handheld. Come on. Do people really think Sony's going to get a handheld back in the market with cell phones and even like the Switch out there with the 3DS? Sony has no plans to lose money on that. No, they're not going to do that. I guess that's it. I have to see if they come up with anything else for the holiday season. But yeah, that's our post press conference show, guys, for Sony at E3. I liked Spider-Man. That was good. Monster Hunter looked interesting. It's not a mainline Monster Hunter, but it's its own, its own type of Monster Hunter game that is geared more towards the Western audience. And you know what? It might actually help Monster Hunter in the long run if more people in the West get attached to it.
Yeah, the added on functions of, I guess they showed a little bit of free running, not like wall crawling, free running, but like leaping over things actively, climbing up walls, leaping off to grab onto monsters, a little bit of that cling mechanic. Those types of things could reinvigorate the series, because if they just released a standard Monster Hunter again with slightly better graphics, I mean, that's all you're doing is you're just playing Monster Hunter again, whereas the additives, that could really change some things. It'd be really nice.
Yeah, no, that's the one. That Shadow of the Colossus, I'm excited for Shadow of the Colossus to play through again. If they do, I don't even want to say it's like a remaster. I guess they're using the same game, but they're gonna like almost like how the Crash Insane trilogy maybe is, where they redo all the visuals. That looks awesome. I will get that, and I will be playing that. Especially if it'd be really cool if it does like a PS4 Pro type enhancement, where maybe you get 60 frames per second out of it. That would be awesome, and it'd be fun going back to that world and kind of I guess kind of revisiting that entire thing. Spider-Man, that, Monster Hunter, and Detroit looked interesting, but I feel like I have to see some actual gameplay, because I think what we saw was a lot of scripted, rendered gameplay.
It has that bad taste, because you remember the Watch Dogs trailer. I watched it too when they originally announced it, and I thought how amazing that looked. Then when the game dropped, it was just all the visual fidelity they showed us in the trailer was gone. All the major upgrades that they were like, oh, I can do all that. No, not there anymore. It was all gone. And there was just a boiled down GTA with like a slight gimmick on top of it. And it didn't look that great. So I'm really hoping this one doesn't crash and burn.
Yeah, even like I said, I was excited to see Days Gone again, but it looks like a Last of Us spinoff. So no, I guess those were the big highlights for me. Shadow of the Colossus, Monster Hunter, and Spider-Man, and a little cautiously optimistic on Detroit. The VR games didn't do it for me. I'm still not sold on VR. That's me. I'm just not. And I guess that's it. I guess that's it for the post show. Anything else you want to add, Evan?
No, we covered pretty much everything, because again, there wasn't much.
Yeah. I don't know. All I gotta say is Nintendo is, I think, going into their conference in a much, I think, much better place than they were expecting. The competition just wasn't there this E3. I don't know. It's weird. It's like Microsoft showed up with a system and then a bunch of multiplats. Sony showed up with like a couple exclusives, but all multiplats, and nothing is coming out this year. So there you go. Nintendo focusing on 2017. Maybe I think Nintendo's in a great spot to win E3 and take, if you want to say win E3, and take over the holiday season. So that's pretty much what they need to do in their first year with the system. So good for them. I guess that's it for tonight, guys. Thanks for joining us on the stream and the post show. Check us out tomorrow, because we're gonna be doing a bunch of this is for the person that they were broke. This is for the person that did they were broke. I'm sorry, I tried to read that. Thanks Al for the $5. I saw something about did they broke. Let me see if I read. This is for the person that did they were broke. I assume that said they were broke. Okay. Anyway, yeah, guys, we'll be back tomorrow morning for the Nintendo Treehouse and the Nintendo presentation. I think Nintendo's just in a good spot. We'll see what they can bring to the table. Hopefully they show up with a really like a serious, like rapid fire sizzle reel almost entirely for the Direct. They don't have a lot of time to spend talking about other things. So we'll see what they have, though. That's tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. We will go. Okay, said. Okay, yeah. Al said, oh, thanks for the $5 again, Al. Said they were broke. Gotcha, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. $10, then. I appreciate it. But that's it for here, guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning for the Nintendo show. I am looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. And then we have the Treehouse. So I guess that's it. Evan, where can they find you, dude?
Anything Kimmerix Project. I can type in chat with my little name. You can go there. Twitch, Instagram, YouTube. YouTube I haven't been focusing on heavily. I've been mostly focusing on Twitch right now. But, you know, just stay tuned to Spawn Wave, because I'm helping out as much as I can with it. So anything cool and new that pops up, my hand was probably in it. So enjoy that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning bright and early. I'll see you then.